Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. Today we are about to dive into the world of the garment industry on a global scale. I'm so excited to have industry experts with us today. So welcome, Michael, Fred, and Steve. Shall we get started? So to kick things off, could you please provide us an overview of the current landscape of the garment industry globally? What trends are shaping the markets right now?
I guess I'll take this, guys. I'd like to say there are some buzzwords when you talk about the landscape of the garment industry. Taxes, tariffs, Trump, AI, innovation, sustainability. These are all buzzwords on the landscape at the moment. But also the word reliability is important, referring to supply chain disruptions, mostly intangible factors, since there's no way to control geopolitical situations. We know that. We watch, we wait, we watch, and the garment people do as well. There's a war in the Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia, Mideast situations, and overall anxiety because of Trump's rhetoric and his reputation as kind of an agent of chaos. There's been a lot of talk of high tariffs. Inauguration day is coming up in a few days, so we're waiting and watching. But one of the things I like to talk about when it comes to the landscape of the garment industry is sustainability. That's one area that everybody has been looking at for years, and now it's becoming much more front row and center. And the single most serious issue facing the apparel industry today is the environmental footprint. Everybody is watching that. It's a massive and extremely destructive situation. This includes production of textiles and the disposal of garments. Another thing that you hear a lot about these days is circularity, being able to reuse products. And recyclability, the footprint. This is important again. Textiles and the production of textiles and what comes afterwards. If you don't recycle, it's leaving a permanent mark on the environment, on the planet. Most apparel companies are on a mission to develop and sell eco-friendly materials. We see that all the time now in garment company and apparel advertising. Unfortunately, there's a lot of greenwashing that goes along with that. At the same time, customers are more interested in the traceability factor of where the garments are coming from. And that means tracing it all the way back to where the materials are sourced from. And being able to manufacture the goods, you need to know there's cotton. Cotton is one of the products that is being traced regularly now. There are companies out there that are forensic companies that do this tracing for the garment and apparel industry now. I'd like to reference one company that I've talked to in the past that's doing a mapping program with a financial kind of forensics company. And what they're doing is they're connected with U.S. Customs, and U.S. Customs can flag everything going all the way back to the origin of the fiber of the materials that are being used, if it's a natural material like cotton. So this is all interesting stuff. This is the direction that the garment industry is moving in. Here's a fact. Just 15% of garments are actually recycled, and the rest goes into landfill. So it's an extraordinary challenge when it comes to sustainability initiatives, in addition to the fact that 69% of all garments contain non-sustainable synthetic fibers. So that traceability factor that I mentioned about cotton, that's one thing. Now you've also got synthetic fibers as a sustainability issue.
No, I think the pressure that the garment industry is under is one of time and delivery. Increasingly, consumers want the product from whom they buy it for, when they want it, and of course, in good condition. So increasingly, consumers need to say, if they go to a retail store, the product is there. Similarly, if they want to buy from a Amazon or an internet organization, online store, the inventory has to be there to deliver the goods. Now, inventory is there, but if it's damaged, it's not really an inventory. You can't sell it. Let's look at the finance a little bit. Let's pretend we have a container of garments, and let's pretend the first cost of those garments, or the CIF cost of those garments, is $250,000. Not an unusual amount. If those goods get to the destination, inventory warehouse, let's say, and they're in bad condition, what can the importer do, or what can the retailer do? Well, he can have them remediated, but that costs at least anywhere for garments $2.50 to $4 per garment. So you multiply that by how many garments are in the container, and there are generally at least 500 to 750 cartons in the container. You're talking a lot of money. Let's just say you write off the FOB price, or the first cost price, and let's say that cost is $250,000. That $250,000 could buy over 4,300 containers worth of super dry desiccant. So what we are basically selling is a product that works and is cheap insurance. Why does this matter to the garment industry? Because increasingly the customers are demanding the goods when they want them, what they want, and in time.
Wow, there is a lot of going on right now. But I'm curious, among of those disruptions, what are some of the biggest challenges garment manufacturers are facing today in global market?
Customers, brands, and retailers are looking, because they're moving out from China in a lot of cases, they're looking for supply elsewhere around the globe, and it's becoming tougher and tougher to get into those factories. Vietnam is reaching saturation, Bangladesh and some of these other countries are getting very quickly, their ability to source is going to be challenged because of the offshoring out of China. So that is a challenge that we've understood from a lot of our customers.
And if you're not in now, it's going to be very difficult to get in. Yeah, here's another interesting fact. One customer, a major retailer of outerwear, told me that they have now shifted. They were at 78% of their production was in China. They have another buzzword, decoupling. They have shifted so much out of China, they're now only at 28% in China. The rest is in Bangladesh, Vietnam, some Middle East. That's also another challenge, Middle East, because you've got problems with the Red Sea and the Suez Canal and transportation. So some of those areas where people are producing, or they've shifted to, they now need to shift away from that into other areas. All of these retailers are constantly doing that anyway, but now it's become even more important because, again, for the U.S., it would be the Trump tariffs. They're talking about 60%. Mexico originally was going to be an area that we were going to work with very closely for the U.S. Now Trump is looking at that as well. So Steve said that's out of the equation because we talked about it already, but I just have to bring it up again.
And that's a very good point, I think. And most of the areas where the production is shifting to is increasingly subtropical areas. So previously, the largest exposure to moisture damage was inside the container because it gets extreme temperature variations every day, and that causes condensation. Now you have the additional factor of producing textiles, garments, and pretty much anything else in increasingly wet and humid environments, which I believe it calls for much more moisture damage protection.
Well, let's say as industry grows, maintaining product quality becomes our number one priority. But I'm curious, how do companies ensure that their product meets the necessary standards, especially during transportation?
Well, most of our larger retail customers and brands, they have a mold prevention SOP. Unfortunately, in a lot of cases, they don't make it mandatory to use a mold prevention product like Superdry. It's our responsibility on the destination side to persuade them to recognize the value of using Superdry. But those same companies are spending a lot of time, resources, and money developing products in subtropical areas around the world, and then just seconding the responsibility to their suppliers to make sure it shows up mold-free. And when it does show up mold-free, then it goes into remediate with mold. They have chargebacks, they have claims and everything else. So it's really our responsibility is try to persuade them that spending a little money on the front end will have an enormous benefit on the back end when it shows up in the customer's bag at Kohl's, as an example, that there's no issues with mold. And to spend that little bit of money on the front end makes a huge difference.
And the fact that we spend so much time with vendors at origin, we find out what challenges they have, aside from hearing from the actual end users in Europe and the States, all over the world. But yes, the investment in mold prevention is becoming more and more front and center to most companies, where they weren't paying attention to it before. Now, because of the shift in manufacturing and into those areas, it's something they have to take a look at more closely.
And that, I think, brings us to once we've decided, or once companies have decided that mold production is somewhat of a priority, they have to decide what product they need. I'm not going to speak of SuperDry directly. I'm going to speak of the ingredients that are necessary. Silica gel has become a generic term for desiccant. People say silica gel, oh, it's a desiccant, and vice versa. Silica gel and clay perform the same way. They absorb very, very quickly, but in very minuscule amounts. Certainly not enough sometimes to get out of the origin factory, and never enough for an international supply chain, which can exceed 60 days. So not only do you have to look at how much the product, the desiccant, can absorb, but an equally important fact is it has to contain and isolate that moisture. Basically, it has to lower the dew point. So no matter what happens in the warehouse, no matter what happens in the container, the dew point in that confined space is such that condensate moisture will not form. So first of all, the companies should look at protecting their product, because even if they have chargebacks, and I hear this all the time from some customers, I'm not worried about mold or moisture damage prevention because I can charge back the factory. Well, you can do that, but you're never going to get enough margin to that chargeback is not going to equal the margin you would have made by selling the product. Additionally, an importer, not a retailer, if he can't deliver to the retailer, he's going to spoil a relationship that probably took years to develop. So again, as Steve mentioned, it's very cheap insurance.
Well, in this context, how do you see SuperDry desiccant could play a role in preserving product quality during the shipping?
I think Mike has summarized that. The fact is that it's a very cheap insurance. At the end of the day, when you look at protecting your valuable merchandise, anything that goes into an ocean shipping container is going to be subject to mold. It's just plain and simple. The floor of a container is made out of wood. It holds a lot of moisture. The boxes are hygroscopic. They're made out of cardboard. They hold a lot of moisture. The only way to protect anything that goes into an ocean container is to absorb that water. We believe, and this is the science, that while there are three things that will make mold grow, it's already there. But to make it grow, you need oxygen, you need a food source, and you need water or moisture. There is a lot of moisture in an ocean shipping container. If you absorb that moisture by using a desiccant, you're going to mitigate any chances of mold growing. So this is very important to especially to the garment people, anything that's got materials, agricultural products, all those type of things.
Yeah, if I could just interject, we have a product, our 2-gram calcium clay. We just calcium chloride. I'm sorry, absorbed over 500% of its original dry weight. Over 30 days, we compared ourselves to our own clay and silica and our competitors' clay product. They could barely get to 40% of absorption rate. So we offer a very cost-effective solution to anybody who has a mold problem or potential problem. And our desiccant will last 60 to 90 days, which is, longer than any supply chain could probably reach. I mean, it's we're talking usually into the U.S. 30 days at the most. So store and maybe but we're it's working for 60 days and nothing can reach that standard.
That's a superb point. Just going back to Superdry's history, we were founded solely to provide desiccant for international supply chain operations in containers. The original name of the company was Superdry Container Desiccant. We've changed it to Superdry because now we manufacture all sorts of moisture damage prevention goods. We manufacture clay, we manufacture calcium chloride, many other things, but we would never recommend our own products that are not calcium chloride to be used in international supply chains simply because they don't work. We have them, but we don't sell them in that application for international supply chains. Another point, very critical point, is we manufacture, we have the quality control for our calcium chloride products and our clay products. Many of our products, most of them, I would say 90% of our products, we manufacture ourselves. We do not outsource. They're not third party. So the quality control we have on our factories, and our factories are extremely modern, are magnificent. Really, every time I come to a factory, I'm impressed with what I see.
And another thing related to protecting your merchandise or your commodities is that some customers are proactive about it. They don't wait till they have a mold problem. We always like to use the expression that prevention is better than cure, which is true, because often you'll have a disaster when you have a mold problem. If these goods are going to Europe, many times what they'll do is they'll just leave the containers and send them back. They won't even open the doors of the container. It's not usually that case in the U.S., but in situations where that happens, you've now possibly, you can't deliver the goods. You're going to lose your reputation because you can't deliver. There's just a whole lot of things that are concerning when it comes to not being proactive about mold prevention. So we always recommend take a look at it beforehand, take a proactive approach, get into the factories. We have mold prevention audits with the vendors, and our team here at Origin is extremely proactive going to the factories. They're free services. We'll go in and we do a mold assessment. So these audits are very important. But anyway, it's important to be proactive.
And can you guys elaborate on how specifically moisture affects the garment during transit and storage? What specific issue have you encountered?
I have one example that comes to mind. We do business. We're a preferred supplier for a major U.S. retailer. He called me and said they have some issue with some denim that was sourced in Bangladesh. And they asked me to go to their warehouse, and Superdry was supposedly used. So I went to the warehouse, opened the boxes. There was mold present. Turns out it was a counterfeit Superdry product. So they had the same shipments of denim coming from Bangladesh where they used real Superdry product, no damage. So that's one of the things that we want to raise with our customers on almost every occasion, is to make sure they're using true Superdry product, because there are counterfeits out there. But there is a lot of that was one example that where we could see in the same warehouse where our product versus a counterfeit. If they used us and their supplier used the proper product, used the real Superdry, they wouldn't have had any issues, but they found out the hard way.
Yeah, and this has been an ongoing issue for us over the last 3 years with all of these counterfeits and copycats showing up. The minute one goes down or is prosecuted, we've actually prosecuted a few copycats in China, and we have a list of others we're going after. But often one goes down and another one pops up. And when we get these issues that pop up from time to time, where a customer contacts us, we'll immediately see in a photograph that they'll send us that it wasn't a Superdry. Some of them look very close to ours, but we have now taken steps to avoid counterfeiting. We've patented our design Our packaging has changed. We rebranded a little over a year ago so that our packaging can't be copied as easy. So these are challenges that we have going forward, but we're trying to put the fire out on copycatting.
In a way, it's very, very flattering. Any good product gets copied. So there are certainly very big negatives to our customers when they don't use our products but think they're using our products. But also we're very flattered that a lot of the people who do the counterfeiting are not putting another product's name on it. It's always Superdry.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all of your insights today. That was really great conversation, especially to anyone who is interested in the garment industry. And thanks to our guests Michael, Fred, and Steve for your valuable contributions. And to our listeners, don't forget to subscribe for more great content. See you on the next podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Kelly.
much.